Hey guys, today we're going to read, write, compare, and round decimals. Now our target for today is that we'll be able to do all of this. So what strategies do you use to round, compare, read, and write decimals? Some of the things that we will do today is just look at one number. As we do our lesson together, you'll see how things work out, and then you can ask questions as we are live. But if you did not make the lesson today, here is an example for all of the problems that you might have or see today. Okay, so as we work this through, we are going to read numbers. So one of the forms that we see for decimals is standard. So standard form means that that's the decimal that you always see. For example, it can be 4 and 8/100ths. That is standard form for a decimal. That is just the numbers themselves. We read it as 4 because it is in the ones place. Then we have a decimal. The decimal reads as and. So 4 and then we count our places 0, 8. So that's the tenths and the hundredths. So that means that our number will end with hundredths. If the number ended in the thousandths place, which is the next number, then we would end with thousandths. So in this case, it would be 4 and 8/1000ths. If we had, let's say, we would do 8 and now I have 3 digits. So I have a tenth, a hundredth, and a thousandth. So the number is going to end in thousandth. Now, how do I read this number if I was reading it as a whole number? Is 108. 108, sorry. So I would do 8 and 108 thousandths. That's how I would write it in words as well. What if my number was, then remember 25 is the number at the front and you've learned how to read whole numbers. Now I have a decimal and 25 and I only have one number to the decimal, so it's in the tenths place. So I would end my number with the tenths place. I have a 6 tenths. So I would do 25 and 6/10. Each of them will write that same way. Now, what if I needed to actually write it in expanded form? So if I was write it in expanded form, I want you to see, I'm going to write this last digit here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to break it down into place value, okay? So I'm going to do 20 plus 5 plus the 6/10, okay? And I can not put the 0, just put a decimal and a 6, that's fine. So that's the simple way of expanding. In 5th grade, we actually named the place value. So not just expanding, but actually multiplying that number by its place value. So I would say that this is a 2 times 10. Okay, so 20 is 2 times 10, and the place value is always in the base of 10. So I would always do 10 times, plus. So I have 20 there plus the 5 times 1 because it's in the ones place. So this is tens place, this is ones place. So I have to name the place value with numbers. So expanded form in this case would be, I went from 20 plus 5 plus 6/10 to 10. 2 times 10 is 20 plus 5 times 1 is 5 plus 6, because I have 6/10 times 1/10 of a whole. So it changes to 1/10 of a whole, okay, because it's in the tenths place. Now, what if instead of doing that number, I'm going to do the first number, the 4 and 8/100ths, sorry. So I would do 4 plus the 0 in the ones in the, I'm sorry, in the tenths place plus the 8/100ths, okay? So obviously, if I have a 0 by itself, I don't need that. I can get rid of it and not even worry about it, okay? So I'm going to do the 4 times 1 because the 4 is in the ones place. So I want to name that place. So 4 times 1, I'm going to fix that x so it looks better, plus the 800ths, I keep naming it that way, the hundredths. So it's always the number that you find, and then I'm going to do the place because I am dividing, and we know that division is a form of fraction. I would do times the 1 over 100 because it's the hundredths place is a 1 over 100. Notice that for this one, it's a 1 over 10. This would be 1 over 3 and 1 over the 2 zeros, okay? So when I say 2, 3, and I'm sorry, I'm going to make it simpler. So over 100 over a 10. So this is over 100. This is over 1,000. There you go. Okay. So notice how the 8 here, which is a hundredth, has a 1 over 100. So I need to do 8 times over 100. If I was doing the 8 in this one, it would be 8 times 1,000th because I have 3 digits, so I have 3 zeros. And the 6 will be multiplied by 1/10 because I only have one number in the decimal place. So when I'm writing expanded form, that usually is when it's a little bit more tricky. Okay. What if I am comparing the numbers? So if I'm comparing numbers, usually, I look at the number. In this case, I'm going to write them a little more clear for you. What if I have 2 and 33 hundredths and 2 and 8 tenths? Well, a good way to do this, because this one has only 2 decimals in the tenths, in the thous, in the decimal place, and this one only has one number in the decimal place. What I can do is I can stack them, always leaving the decimal in the same spot. This is what I call it, the pancake stack. So the decimal stays in the same place. Here's my first pancake, my 2 and 33 hundredths, and then my 2 and 8 tenths. Now here's my 2 stacks of pancakes. Notice that my pancakes are not even at this time because I'm missing a digit here at the end. So whenever I'm missing a digit, what I can do is put a 0, and that makes it a little more clear to see. Now, I may not be really good with decimals, but I can tell that if I took the decimal out here and 2 and the decimal here too, I would have 233 and I would have 280. Obviously, this one has got to be greater than the other. So the 2 and 8 tenths becomes greater than the 2 and 33 hundredths. So if you stack your numbers one on top of the other like you do your pancakes, you'd be able to see. You fill in with zeros whenever you're not sure what to do because you're missing numbers. So you just put zeros. Now, what if I wanted to round my decimals? Well, you have a place value chart, so if it is very important that you know where your decimals are when you're rounding. When you're rounding, it will usually tell you to round to a certain place. I have to tell you that if it tells you to round at a certain place, you need to stop at that place. That is your last number, because if you add more zeros, you're not rounding to that place. Instead, you're rounding to another place. Let me show you an example. If I have 4 and 387, and I'm trying to round the 10th, okay? I'm rounding to the 10th. So by rounding to the 10th, what I'm doing is I'm trying to get rid of these two numbers at the end. Therefore, those numbers should not appear anymore. So what I want to do is stop at the number that it tells me to round to. So if I'm rounding to the 10th, I want to stop at the 10th. What I do is I copy the numbers forward. That number is not going to change, okay? All those numbers forward will not change. So the 4 is going to stay the same. However, the 3 is the one that can change or stay the same. If the number to the left, and always the number to the left is the one that determines this. If the number to the left is between 0 and 4, the number stays the same. If the number is between 5 and 9, the number goes one more up. So you add a +1. Now, looking at this number that we kind of crossed out there, it's an 8, actually. It's an 8. So 8, I'm looking at the number next to the one I want to round, which is 8. And 8 is between 5 and 9. So I need to add one more. So it needs to go to 4. So when I round my 3 and 387 thousandths to the 10th place, it would give me 4 and 4 tenths. That is your work for today. After you are done with your lesson, you will go into Google Classroom and find your assignment for math today. Once you click it, you will open it and you will see that there are flashcards. You need to answer the questions for each of them using the help of this video lesson, okay? So when you'll see that you have different task cards. There is 28 task cards that you should finish today. Good luck.